So let's look at person-centered care and explore what person-centeredness actually is and how we apply it at Alzheimer's WA within our services. So as I said earlier, the essence of person-centered care is a paradigm that looks at the person, it looks at the individual. It recognises the person has dementia and that the cognitive changes that are happening for a person are impacting on the person's functional ability, cognitive ability, maybe motivation and mood. So all of those things are playing a part cognitively of what's going on with the brain. But person-centered care really just looks at that as a part of the whole puzzle. And the rest of the puzzle is made up of who we are as individuals. And that's the thing with dementia. It's a very individualized condition. So if I get dementia, it will impact me and I will respond to it very differently than if you get dementia. So the nature of dementia means that who we are as a person will be very much a key influencer on how we respond to what's happening in our brain. And so person-centered care really tries to do that. It tries to look at each individual. It moves away from this homogenous thinking about all people with dementia will behave in this way, or all people with dementia need this, or all people with dementia don't need this, and really looks at you as an individual, or me as an individual, or whoever it is that we're working with as an individual. And so we look at things like your life story. You know, who are you? Who are you as a person? Where was you born? Who was you brought up by? What job did you do? What did you find in your life that was meaningful and purposeful? How important were relationships to you? What about sense of autonomy and choice? Is that important to you? Because it might be important to you, but it might not be important to me. So all of these areas make up who we are as people. And when you overlay dementia on top of that, what we tend to find is that the person with living with dementia, those things start to get impacted quite quickly. So if we look at one of those areas that I've just talked about and think about autonomy and the ability to make choice. So we make thousands of choices a day, often subconsciously, often without thinking about it, but moment to moment we're making choices. Now for somebody living with dementia, very quickly those choices often get taken away, right to the point of getting up in the morning, or even thinking about what time I'm going to get up in the morning. That choice might no longer be there for the person because the service is coming in at a certain time, so they have to get up, or they're in a residential care home and the routine of the care home means they have to get up. So you can start to see that as you walk through your day and you think of all the choices that you make in a day, if you had dementia, how much of that would be taken away from you? Now think about, if that is taken away from you, what impact will it have on you? How will you emotionally feel about that? And how will you respond to that? Will you get angry? Will you get frustrated? Or maybe you'll withdraw, and maybe you'll become isolated, and maybe you'll just give up. And that's often what happens for somebody living with dementia. So when we look at the individual and we look at the person, it's really, really important for us to get as much information and knowledge about the person as we can and constantly be open to learning. And that's the beauty of this work, I think. We're very privileged to step into people's lives and spend time with them and learn about them and form a relationship with them. And the more that we get to know somebody, the better we can be at being with that person. And that is what this is about, is have we got what we need to be with somebody in the world that they're in? And person-centered care allows us to do that. It stops us looking at the medical condition and just focuses on the individual. So when you're working with somebody living with dementia, or if you're working across the organisation that's not directly with somebody with dementia, but we're supporting people who are, then that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve that person-centered approach for people. One of the terms that was coined, and person-centered care came out of the UK about 30 years ago, and it was really developed by a professor at Bradford University called Tom Kitwood. And Kitwood's theory was very much that what we see in the manifestation of the lived experience of dementia is made up of all of these complex components of us as human beings. And at the time, it was seen as quite heresy to say that because we were so stuck in the medical model. And we believe that all of these things that somebody with dementia was doing was because they had brain damage from the dementia. And what Kitwood did was really help us to understand that level of complexity as human beings and what that means to us if we do get dementia. And Kitwood coined a phrase called personhood. And personhood is a really important thing to consider. And personhood is really, it's the way that we feel about ourselves that's influenced by the world around us and how the world around us sees us. and how we respond to that. So if you are in an environment where you're being really well supported, you have meaning and purpose in your life, you feel that you're part of a community, a group, a club, whatever it might be, and you have that social connection, and all of the, I guess, the influences and factors and the messaging that you're getting is responding to you as a human being and really reinforcing your worth as a human being, then your social persona and your feelings and emotions will be really strong. If all of that is the opposite and you're being told, no, you can't do that anymore, you've failed at that, or you feel you've failed at that, if you're being socially isolated and stigmatized because people are embarrassed because maybe you're saying things that you never used to say, or maybe you're playing golf and you can no longer keep score like you used to do, so the other guys are getting frustrated. All of that messaging comes back to us and it creates what we call social malignancy. And social malignancy is just that feeling of the environment around us not supporting us, and that diminishes our personhood. And so when we see people with dementia who are withdrawn, who maybe are not functioning so well, who may be struggling both emotionally and physically, it may well not be because of the cognitive damage. It's actually that their personhood has become so diminished that life is just too hard for them. Now, the exciting thing about that is in the medical model, we have no answers. We've got no cures, we've got no treatments. The only treatments we've got are drugs that sedate people, in effect. So we have no hope. We are just in a hopeless situation. You get a diagnosis of dementia and it is a hopeless journey ahead. If we truly believe in personhood and we truly believe that if we create the right environment and we approach this in a person-centered way, the lived experience of dementia can be very, very different, then we suddenly have hope. And I'm not saying that this is going to cure dementia, it isn't. I'm not saying that it's going to stop the deterioration of the cognitive decline and pathology, it isn't. But what it will do is it will give people strength and hope and help them on this journey ahead of them. And that's what we can do. And that's what we should be doing. And that's what Alzheimer's WA tries to do in what we do in our services, our models and our philosophies.